I am Dr. Ghulam Nabi Mehman. Today I will discuss ultrasound guided supraclavicular brachial plexus block. My presentation will include the introduction, relevant anatomy, perioperative assessment and preparation of the patient, indications of the brachial plexus block, contraindication of supraclavicular block, complication and side effects, and prerequisite of block. Then equipment and logistics, sonoanatomy of the supraclavicular block, how to make position for successful block. Then I will discuss about the conduct of the block, how we have to conduct the block, then intraoperative care, postoperative care, and clinical tips. Introduction. In ultrasound guided supraclavicular block technique, brachial plexus is approached cuspided and adjacent to the clavicle in supraclavicular fossa. That means we have to keep the probe in the supraclavicular fossa above the clavicle, facing towards the chest, not towards the neck. At this level we find trunks or divisions. It could be end of the trunks or divisions. So the anatomy is variable. Sometimes we can see all three trunks even in the supraclavicular fossa. They do not divide in the supraclavicular fossa. They divide after passing the first rib or in the thorax. Usually we find 6 or 7 or 8 divisions which look like grapes. The target area is distal end of the intercostal interscalene groove above the clavicle. The plexus is tightly pegged between first rib and clavicle. It's convenient to block plexus with single injection, and this is sole technique we can use, and we are using. External block for upper limb anesthesia and analgesia except shoulder and upper part of the arm. Supraclavicular brachial plexus block is also called spinal of the upper limb. It's a single sole technique and it has a definitive results like spinal anesthesia. In case of tourniquet, if we use the tourniquet, then we have to separate the intercostal brachial nerve, which is T2, which is not the part of the brachial plexus block, by giving some subcutaneous injection in the medial side of the arm. So we can use, but the brachial plexus does not provide anesthesia for tourniquet. Relevant anatomy. Brachial plexus is formed from anterior rami of lower 4 cervical and first thoracic, means C5, 6, 7, 8 and thoracic 1. From start of the nerves when they emerge out of the spinal column up to the first rib, the plexus is sandwiched between interscalene and middle scalene muscle in an interscalene groove. And this is a myofascial compartment. This is a closed compartment which runs beside the neck down to the arm. In this closed compartment, these 5 nerves emerge out to unite in a way to form 3 trunks. Upper 2 unite to form upper trunk, and the middle continue goes as such as a middle trunk, and C8 and T1 unite to form lower trunk, and they are stacking from above down 3 stacking trunks. Sometimes they divide in this fossa, supraclavicular fossa, and sometimes they don't. So there is variable anatomy. Usually they divide in 6 divisions near the first, before the first rib, or on the first rib, or after the first rib. So the anatomy is variable. The division usually lie lateral to the subclavian artery is a bunch of grapes at first rib. The roof of the compartment is formed by the perivertebral fascia and an inferior belly of omohyoid is running in the roof, hypoechoic area like muscle. Floor is formed by the first rib. This is a triangular space. Floor is formed by the first rib. Anterior boundary is formed by the anterior scalene muscle, and the posterior boundary is formed by the middle scalene muscle. The brachial plexus runs anterolaterally. In this diagram, you can see the anatomy of the brachial plexus. C5 and 6 unite to form upper trunk, and C7 goes as a middle trunk, and C8 and T1 unite to form the lower trunk. Then they mark the division and cards and 6 terminal branches. This diagram is showing the myofascial compartment. You can see the anterior scalene muscle, and there is a fascia covering this brachial plexus, and posterior you can find the middle scalene muscle. Rib is there, and you can find the area where can we block this brachial plexus. In this diagram, again it's clearly showing the relationship of the brachial plexus with anterior scalene and posterior scalene. You can find this groove. The artery is coming to become subclavian artery when it passes below the clavicle and then becomes axillary artery. So the artery joins from the thorax, nerves are coming from the neck, they join in a myofascial compartment. This is called interscalene groove, and the nerves and arteries are contained in a closed compartment which is myofascial in origin. From behind is muscle, anterior is muscle, and there is fascia surrounding the nerves and arteries, which is continuous downward as neurovascular bundle in the arm. Perioperative assessment and preparation for this means include the routine, like we do the introduction, take history, do physical general examination, do investigation, risk assessment and grading of the patient, and optimization and preparation. We check consent, ask for NPO, and do site marking. Indication of the block: number 1 is upper limb anesthesia except shoulder and medial part of the forearm. So shoulder surgery is difficult to perform this block. This is supplied by shoulder supplied by C5-6 suprascapular nerves, which leaves at the level of trunk, and sometimes it is not blocked, and we can block it separately or in the in this fossa even, but it is spared usually. So it is because if I use high volume, the drug can go higher up and block C4, but which is again becomes the cervical plexus block, and our aim is to start C5. So we are using 20 ml, but if you use 30 or more than 30, we can block this nerve C4. And medial part of the arm is supplied by T2, which is not the part of the brachial plexus. The second indication is upper limb analgesia, intraoperative and postoperative. We can use this block with general anesthesia, and we can take benefit of analgesia during operation, and we can use this analgesia postoperatively. This block can be used for arteriovenous fistula creation, for dialysis, or for any procedure. Early physiotherapy we can do with this block because patient is pain free. And if you want to avoid GA, then this is very good block for arm surgery. If vasodilatation of the upper limb is required, we can use this block in some condition where vasodilatation is required. Early immobilization like tendon repair, because patient can move the arm and can damage the repaired tendon. So in cases of tendon repair, we use this block. Supraocular brachial plexus block has fastest onset of time. It is also called spinal of the arm. It is dense block, very fast block, and complete analgesia. Contraindication is, of course, the patient refusal. We cannot give any block without the consent of the patient. Then, if there is local infection and sepsis at the site of area this in supraclavicular fossa, we should avoid. Then coagulopathy. If there is a coagulation disorder, we should not use this block. For the reason, if there is bleeding, we are unable to stop bleeding because this is a area which is posteriorly anteriorly covered by the bones. From behind there is a first rib and above there is clavicle. So we are unable to compress and stop this bleeding. Bilateral block should be avoided. If phrenic is blocked on both sides, which is a side effect and which is common occurrence in this block, so patient can go in apnea and then we have to work for that situation. Supraclavicular brachial plexus block should be avoided in respiratory care pills because if the patient is dependent on that side of diaphragm where we are blocking or the other side is weak, then we will go for GA. In case of peripheral neuropathy, this is a relative contraindication because if we want to do peripheral in neuropathy, we can do, but we have to record and tell to the family and patient itself that your limb is already neuropathic and there is already decreased motor activity. This block will not cause more effect but may cause worsening or may be causing same situation. This area is very shallow and highly mobile area. This is 1 to 2 centimeters. Sometimes even we give local puncture site analgesia and we are in the compartment. So it's very shallow block and very highly mobile area. The clavicle is moving, shoulder is moving, the neck is moving. It can be displaced. So this is not a good place for catheter, passing catheter. Complication and side effect. You see there are complications of each block, which is damage to the surrounding viscera or structures. Like in this case, we can damage pleura, cause pneumothorax. The incidence is almost 1%, but they calculate is as 0.5 to 6%, and that causes pneumothorax. Damage to the nerves, we can inject intraneural injection, which is we should take care. There are methods to avoid this. We will discuss later in this presentation. Then there are vessels surrounding area, and we should use the Doppler color ultrasound to identify vessels, arteries and veins to avoid the intravascular injection. So as I mentioned, there could be lost, means local anesthetic systemic toxicity for which we should be ready every time to manage if it goes into the vein. The second is we can inject by mistake in the artery and most of the drug is lost in the artery. This is rare occurrence because under ultrasound we see in the direct vision and it's not possible to go, but sometimes it can happen. We should count it as a complication of side effect, and this is common in blind techniques. Arterial bleeding is difficult to control. As I mentioned before, this is a area above and below there is bone and we are unable to compress, so it can cause bleeding. And we can block the phrenic nerve. The incidence is high, 50, 60 or one study says 67%, which is very high. And we know this. This is not a complication, this is a side effect. I say it a side effect, but rather I would say it is an effect because our intention is block C5, which is part of the phrenic nerve, and C4 could be blocked, and even C3 could be blocked with high volumes. So C5 is all cases blocked, and C4 may be blocked. So this is high incidence of phrenic nerve. Phrenic nerve passes beside is in the, and there is a variable anatomy of the phrenic nerve. Sometimes it is going behind the anterior scalene muscle, sometimes it is going inside, passing inside the anterior scalene muscle, sometimes it is anterior to the scalene muscle, and it can be blocked. Nerve itself can be blocked. We can block the T1, we can block the stellate ganglion and can cause Horner syndrome in 40 to 60%. The incidence is high because we always block T1. Infection can occur and only meticulous technique can avoid the infection, and we should take care and we should use the sterile technique. Rarely ulnar nerve sparing can occur because this is lowest trunk or the branches are ulnar nerve. So sometimes the ulnar artery is almost sitting on the ulnar nerve or hiding the ulnar nerve from the solution. So they say give solution subclavian artery should raise up above the clavicle. I do not recommend to use this technique going in 8 ball corner pocket, and rather we can use 20 to 30 ml and the nerve can be bathed. Then the partial block can occur or block may fail. We should be ready for general anesthesia in all cases. The prerequisite of the block is it should be sterile technique, good light source should be available, 2 IV lines in the contralateral limb should be inserted 18 gauge cannula, monitoring should be standard, resuscitation drugs all including lipid solution should be available, which is all routine for every case we do. This case should not be done in the non-surgical area or not out of OR. It should be done in OR with aseptic technique with all GA facilities available, resuscitation facilities available, and we need a trained assistant who is expert in or assisting in regional anesthesia. And GA facilities should be in hand. For example, we fail for regional block, we can give GA. Consent should be checked, NPO, and confirm block site or marking the block site before the block. This is prerequisite of the block. Equipments we need basic standard monitoring facilities, high frequency linear probe and ultrasound machine. The frequency should be more than 12 megahertz, 16, 18, 19 is better. Insulated B-bevel echogenic needles are used, and we are using smaller size of length of the needle, 50 to 80 millimeters enough. We don't want to go more. In 1 centimeter depth we can find the brachial plexus block. We need sterile gloves, we need sterile glazing solution, we need probe care and sterile jelly, 4 sterile towel or 1 whole sheet to isolate the block area. We need 5 cc syringe with local anesthetic for puncture site analgesia. We need pressure measuring syringes with tubing. Local anesthetic, volume dose calculated as per kg. You see 2 milligram per kg or 3 milligram per kg bupivacaine or lignocaine according to body weight, and then we can use volume which is 20 ml or maybe increase to 30 ml according to need. Nerve stimulator is nowadays used to exclude the intraneural injection. It is kept at the minimum current of 0.1 milliampere. We need sedative analgesics, midazolam, fentanyl and ketamine. We should have facilities available for converting the patient into GA. Preliminary sonoanatomy, ultrasound setting. How we set the ultrasound. Sonoanatomy is essential part of our anesthesia technique before giving or preparing for practical conduct of the block. Identify the nerves before going for block. So we should have a concept in mind what I will do after preparing. The anatomy is variable regarding why we do, because the anatomy is very variable regarding nerves, and sometimes the trunks are available or sometimes big vessels are available, and we may about the technique we can go for GA. Sometimes we find very big, it's very rare but it can. And regarding setting, we use high frequency ultrasound probe with a frequency more than 12 megahertz and setting to nerve exam. We use linear probe, we use implant technique. Depth setting is kept 1 to 2 or 3 centimeter and 70 kg person, and we use the part maneuvering for best view of brachial plexus block. We use color Doppler to identify blood vessels in this area, which are common. In part, you see the first technique, we are pressing. This is pressure. Part means P-A-R-T. P means pressure. A means alignment. R means rotation and T means tilting. In first you see we are applying pressure. You can see this arrow is pressing to identify the structure clearly. Then we do alignment, go up and down, lateral and medial for identification and clear view of the block. In rotation, we can rotate the probe to view, and we can tilt even to identify the structure. In sonor anatomy, which is very important, we have to identify first structure, subclavian artery, which is a round, pulsatile and anechoic structure. This is a black structure you can see in a circle, and this is pulsating, and if we press it we can find the pulsation clear. Brachial plexus division lies lateral to the subclavian artery as a bunch of grapes. You can see the 6 divisions lateral to the subclavian artery. Sometimes we can find the trunks in this area. Then we have to identify first rib. This subclavian artery is sitting on the first rib because it is passing from the thorax to the upper limb over the first rib. This is a line of hyperechoic line, is clavicle. Below clavicle is anechoic shadow of pleura, which moves on respiration. You can identify anterior scalene muscle medial to subclavian artery. Most medial is subclavian vein medial to the interscalene muscle. Anatomical formula for identifying structure vein, V-A-N, can be applied here because the medial most structure is vein, then there is interscalene muscle, but there is artery and then nerve. Roof of the plexus formed by the paravertebral fascia and inferior belly of omohyoid, which is clearly visible as a transverse, clearly visible hypoechoic area. Then trapezius muscle can be visualized in the most lateral region of the view. Blood vessel can be viewed by color Doppler. Suprascapular artery, suprascapular vein, transverse cervical artery. We have to avoid puncture of these vessels. This picture shows the subclavian artery is red color, and we can find the most medial is vein, and below down is pleura. Then we can find scalene anterior muscle. Then artery you can find. Then you can find this small oval grape-like structure, which is brachial plexus. Scalene medius can be found most lateral. The roof can be found omohyoid belly, which is clearly visible. This is real view of the sonor anatomy. You can find subclavian artery sitting on the first rib, and below this is pleura, and you can find this omohyoid, which is roof of the myofascial compartment. The floor is first rib, and anteriorly you can find this middle scalene, and most medially you can find the subclavian artery. This yellow structure is trunks and division of the brachial plexus enclosed in a sheath. So we have to come, this is needle trajectory. We come from the lateral side with an angle less than 30 degree, and 25 is a good, and if you can go down even it's better. So just pass the skin, subcutaneous tissue and this muscle. Just passing the scalene muscle, we can inject the drug and hydrodissect and move forward. This is again showing the structures. Most medial is vein, then interscalene muscle, then artery, then nerve, and interscalene muscle again. 10th point, we are discussing how to make position of the supraclavicular brachial plexus block. Head end of the bed is elevated to avoid bending of the patient. Table is raised up and head end is raised to assist our position. We should not bend on the patient. Patient may be kept supine position and semi-recumbent position may be used. A pillow support is given below the neck to relax the neck muscle, and we push the pillow away from the block area and we keep the head of the patient on the edge of the pillow, and we also bump under the scapula. Head is turned away from the operative side. Head is turned to the contralateral side, you can see. The arm is abducted. It should be near to the body and moving down to reach the knee, so the supraocular fossa may be clear. This is a view of the brachial plexus, how the ultrasound probe is used and how the needle is moved. There is the hand which is holding the probe is resting on the body, and even the needle when we are using it is resting on the body, supporting. In conduct of block, we bring the patient inside the OR, prepare, and before preparation we do sonoanatomy, which is essential part of the block, every block. Then we do sterile preparation of the area and isolate the area with 4 towel, then drape ourselves and put gloves on and give puncture analgesia. Then we position the probe parallel above the clavicle at the lateral angle posterior, because the block and the nerve brachial plexus is coming from anterolateral, not from superior inferior. So the angle of the probe should be little away from the clavicle. In-plane technique is used with a 2 to 3 centimeter depth, and we keep the angle of the probe and needle to less than 30 degree, which gives very good visualization. If we increase more than 30, we find some difficulty in finding the needle. And we use part maneuvering to identify all structure clearly, and then we move on. Always keep an eye on the bevel cut, and we don't move the needle until the bevel cut is visible. We keep the artery in the most medial part of the ultrasound probe, so we can view the brachial plexus easily. And now we proceed with the passing the needle from lateral to the medial, and our direction should be towards the upper part of the subclavian artery, and we prick the skin, superficial fascia, deep fascia, and omohyoid muscle. Most of the time not more than 1 centimeter. After passing the omohyoid muscle, which we aspirate, check injection pressure, and inject half to 1 ml to see the spread of the solution. And if we are sure we are in the interscreen groove, we can inject 1 ml, then 2 ml, 2 ml, or 4 ml, or 5 ml, 6 ml. And with hydrodissection, we move towards the medial part of the artery, not going inside the center of the brachial plexus, just going beside the omohyoid muscle and reaching most medial part. Nerve stimulator is used at 1 milliampere, and it is used to exclude intraneural injection. So this is one way we are not injecting intraneural local anesthetic solution. Then we pull back the needle and bring the needle towards the skin, and then target the direction of needle towards the lower part of subclavian artery. We don't try, I don't recommend to reach the coronal pocket, which is recommended by many. You can go below the brachial plexus, going to the subclavian artery by hydrodissection and trying to come near to the coronal pocket, but not below the artery or near to the artery. By hydrodissection it is open. Now we can give in this area again 10 ml. Rest of the solution can be given depending on the spread. If the spread is good and the solution is dispersed in all area in center of the brachial plexus, we can go by hydrodissection in the center of the brachial plexus, and we should be careful to avoid intraneural injection. We have to test the block after injection of 30 ml. We can give 10 ml above upper part, 10 ml lower part, and in the middle we can give 5 to 10 ml till we are satisfied all the nerves are bathed and division are bathed and we can move. So we take the needle out and then look for sensory and motor analgesia. This OK sign we use, radial nerve is tested for extension of the wrist, making OK sign for medial nerve, testing all three nerves. Intraoperative care we do full standard monitoring for as we do for GA. We should avoid hypothermia by using full body bear hugger or any other method to avoid hypothermia. We test motor and sensory block before the tourniquet and injection. Isolate lymph by full screen. Seroanalgesia can be given, or alternatively we can do the close communication, talking to the patient all the time, and when we are sure the patient is fully analgesic and unable to move the limb, we can proceed for surgery. In case of inadequate block, we should be ready for general anesthesia at any time. We should monitor for local anesthetic systemic toxicity at the start, in the middle, and even in the recovery. And we should get ready to manage it by as required, but the drug of choice is lipid emulsion, which should be kept in hand before starting the block. Regarding post-op care, protect the patient from injury with arm string, because this patient has no sensational limb. It can be dropped from ceiling. Inform patient about time of return of sensation in perioperative period, because it is a very long analgesia, maybe 24 hours, and patient say, why limb is paralyzed, it is not working, he may be think there is a problem. So we should inform him before. He should not worry when he don't get the sensation in 18 or 24 hours. And this is our aim, to make him analgesic. We should exchange the mobile phones with the patient or his assistant. In case of problem, he can talk freely, or if there are queries, he should ask. Patient should be early mobile. He should take the food as he needs. Early physiotherapy is a load from anesthesia point of view, because he is pain free. Now clinical tips to manage the patient. We put the machine, ultrasound machine, on the contralateral side of the patient. It should be in front of our eyes, not looking to the side. Sonoanatomy is must before practical conduct. There is variable anatomy, so we should confirm where are the structures and where I have to block. We use sterile technique, which is very important, because this area we cannot afford any infection. We use implant technique. The brachial plexus runs anterolaterally, so we keep the probe in the supraclavicular fossa and we push the lateral part of the probe little away from the clavicle, so we can visualize the omohyoid muscle and we can visualize the brachial plexus easily. We use Doppler ultrasound to avoid intravascular injection. Apart from subclavian artery, there are some other vessels, as I mentioned. Don't bombard in the center of the plexus at first. We travel in the roof of the block, we travel on the floor of the block, and lastly we see if the solution is not spreading inside the fascicles of the divisions, we can go move with hydrodissection. Volume is variable, as we mentioned. We give 10 ml above the block and 10 ml above the block. Last 10 to 15 ml even can be given according to the need of the patient, because we are clearly seeing the spread of the solution. We inject after aspiration in 1 ml increment. We observe the spread and then we can give an 2 ml, 2 ml, and up to 10 ml on one side. So as a rule of the ultrasound techniques, we don't move until the full needle is visible with bevel cut. The tip should be in our vision, so we should not damage any artery or any nerve in this technique. We avoid intramural injection by, I mentioned, by 4 techniques. Number 1 is nerve stimulator use. Lowest setting means 0.1. Even we are near the nerve, it will not give twitch until we are inside. This is lowest. Normally we keep at lowest 0.3 if they are not giving twitch at 0.3. But if we are inside the nerve, then 0.1 ml will give touch definitely. So we should be careful, take the needle out. The second point is pain on injection. Whenever we are injecting the solution, patient will cry if it is intraneural, so we should avoid. And whenever the situation comes, always take out little bag. Third point to avoid the intraneural injection is we are using syringes which shows the pressure inside the needle, and if it is more than 15 psi, we should stop and take the needle out. The fourth is, of course, we are using ultrasound, and we know and we can see even quarter cc, even single drop. When we inject, we see the dispersion of the tissues, and we can identify where is the solution going. Thank you.